dying.
His eyes are always red when he comes out.
So next up, we're moving on to our bigger compound movement, starting with a M torture shoulder press. One top set, one back off set, focusing on peak performance.
Volume.
Going.
Oh, come on. Up, finish that, finish it.
Going.
No touch, that's the one.
So welcome back YouTube, and it's a different me this week. First week, back in the gaining phase. Food's in, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling happy. Last couple of weeks, I was ill, food was low, and I was reevaluating my whole life, but I'm feeling good. So this is gonna kickstart the gaining phase series. And essentially what the goal is to showcase all 5 sessions in my training split, dive into the details of volume, frequency, exercise selection, how to execute the movements. We're then gonna do some videos of what I'm eating at the start of the gaining phase, at the finish of the gaining phase. So I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I'm gonna be doing from start to finish. But underway, first session is gonna be push variation 1. So we've got 2 variations of push, 2 variations of pull, we then got legs. So starting off push variation 1, which is gonna be heavily delt focused, also topped up with some chest work and also some tricep work. So underway with the first movement. So to start the session, we've got a multi-fly side lateral raise. Typically I'll start with an isolation movement just to get some blood flow, get mind to muscle connection before then getting into the bigger movement. So gonna start with a couple of feeder sets, just getting a feel for the movement, getting some mind to muscle connection going, just warming up my joints before we then get into our working sets. So now we're ready. I'm gonna start with 2 top sets and then finish with a back off set. So the 2 top sets are working within a rep range of 8 to 12. The back off set is within a rep range of 12 to 16. Now, what I'm adopting this time round is a big focus on effective sets, effective reps. So what you're gonna see on my big pressing movements, we're only gonna do 1 top set and then 1 back off set. The rationale behind that is because peak performance is going to be in the first set. After that, performance levels are going to drop, so peak performance isn't going to be there. On an isolation movement like this, you're not going to initiate as much fatigue. So on that second set, I'm still at peak performance. I'm not seeing a drop. So 2 workings, 1 back off for isolation movements, 1 working, 1 back off for big compound movements. Now key focus is on a side lateral raise, any variation, whether it's a multi-fly, a cable, a dumbbell, is to focus on your arm alignment. So we need to focus on driving up from our elbows and not our hands. So you want a slight bend in your arm. The angle between your wrist and your biceps is going to stay consistent, and we're going to focus on pulling up from our elbow, and that's going to optimize tension on our side delt. From a tempo standpoint, we want to drive the concentric contractions, and we want to get a 1 second squeeze when the muscle's fully short. The eccentric, we want a 3-second eccentric time under tension, getting a 1 second pause when the muscle's fully lengthened as well as fully shortened. That's going to optimize tension in the lengthened range and also in the shortened range. So what you'll notice there when I'm pausing in the lengthened range is my hands only coming to outside of my hips. That keeps tension. If you're pausing in there, you lose tension on the working muscle. So the 1 second pause works well if you keep tension in the fully lengthened position. From an intensity standpoint, a movement like this, we can drive it to failure. There's minimal amount of risk. So if you fail on that last rep, you drop the load, you can drive it to failure. If you're doing a bench press and you fail on that last rep, no one's spotting you, you can cause yourself an injury. So it might make sense to train with 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Isolation movements, drive it to failure. There's less fatigue generated as well. We drive that to all out failure. So next up, we're moving on to our bigger compound movement, starting with a M torture shoulder press. Now, whether you do it on a machine variation or a dumbbell variation or a barbell variation, there's not too much in it. But the rationale behind why I'm going with the machines is because I've got access to the best equipment in the world training outside of Banús. And for me, I can connect better with it. It takes out the arm alignment, the execution element. You can then just focus on intensity and your tempo. So we're going to be adopting 1 top set, 1 back off set, focusing on peak performance sets. And the good thing about optimizing top sets and back off sets is it allows you to optimize all three killers of hypertrophy. So the key driver is mechanical tension. Whether you're doing a top set or a back off set, they both optimize mechanical tension. When you're going for your lower rep range but higher weights, higher loads, you're then optimizing muscle damage, which is the second driver. And the third driver is metabolic stress when you're adopting that low load, high rep range, more volume. So working with 2 peak performance sets, you're optimizing all 3 killers of hypertrophy. So to start, we're just gonna do a feeder set. Before I get into any working set, I'll start with a feeder set, just to get a feel for the movement, get yourself ready and in the zone with that mind to muscle connection, and then you're ready to start with your first top set. So what you've seen then is Ben is lifting very heavy. Is weight important? Yes, but not when it comes to sacrificing technique. But if you watch his technique then, absolutely perfect. Controlled all the way through, not initiating the movement with momentum, isolating the working muscle, control on the eccentric, driving the concentric, and still driving it to failure. So when working with the load, you want to go as heavy as possible. That allows you to work within your rep range, but with perfect technique. If technique goes out the window, then that load's too high for you. Drop it down until you can progress up to that load.
Going.
So what we're focused on here is having your feet firmly planted on the floor. Push through your heel. When doing any pushing movement, push through your heel and you're going to initiate more power. Time under tension again, every movement, time under tension on the eccentric, 1 second pauses. But when you get that 1 second pause, make sure there's tension. Don't drop your arm completely because that load's just going to be lifted up and held up by your arm, not tension on your shoulder. So keep tension, pause for 1 second, drop explosive power, get that 1 second squeeze in the shorten range and the lengthen range. So next up, we've got a converging machine press, which is very good because it takes the arm alignment out. So if you look at the muscular fibers within your chest, they run across your chest like that. So when doing any pressing variation for chest, focus on converging your arms together, bringing your biceps together and squeezing them. That's going to allow you to get your chest as short as possible, and that's going to maximize tension. So we've done 2 delt movements. Delt's feeling a little bit fried at the minute, so we're going to start pushing some load on chest, then we're going to resume with delts after. Still there, come on. Drive it. This translates to any pressing movement for chest, whether that's dumbbells, whether it's Smith machine, whether it's a machine variation. So you want your feet planted firmly against the floor so you can initiate the power coming through your heels. You don't want your elbows coming flared because when you drive it, there's going to be a lot of tension on the delts. What you want to do is drop the angle and then drive it, and that's going to push the load with your chest rather than your delts. So we then want to make sure that our shoulders are retracted against the bench, chest is elevated. Again, that maximizes tension on your chest and stops you from over-engaging with your delts, and then we can start. So we're driving it, and if you look, converging my arms, squeezing my biceps together, getting it as short as possible. So next up, we've got a machine variation of an incline press. So again, 1 top set, 1 back off set, focusing on peak performance. In any push session, I'm only going to do 1 compound press on delts because any flat chest press, any incline chest press, you're going to be getting some delt work in there. So if you're doing a flat press and incline press and 2 variations of a shoulder press, there's too much tension, you're initiating too much fatigue in correlation to the amount of stimulus that you're going to apply. So up we go with the incline machine press. What's key when aligning is the handles are aligned with your upper chest fibers. When doing a flat press, you want the handles or the dumbbells to be aligned with your nipples. When you're doing an incline press, you want it to be in line with the upper chest fibers.
Stay with me. Make the effective reps right now. This is tension. Stay within this rep range. Come on. Imagine now. In that chamber. Pain. Come on. Collect it. Go. Come on. Up. Finish that. Finish it. No touch. That's the one.
Your eyes are getting red.
Dying now. Yeah. So that's the difference. If you want to get in elite condition, those reps close to failure, embrace that pain. Don't shy away from it. Drive it to failure. You've got to go in with a mindset, and this is what I say to all my clients. You go in that gym, it's you v you. You're at war with yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Come out of every set knowing that you've given that everything. And then it becomes more than physique development this game. Also becomes mental development. You're training yourself to embrace pain, be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, and you're building yourself a strong mindset. So not only do you come out of it looking good, feeling good, high levels of discipline, ready to level up all aspects of your life. So don't shy away from the pain, embrace it and get it.
But what you'll see throughout the training here is what we're both trying to do is stay within the effective rep range for as long as we can. So as soon as we hit that hypertrophic range, which is rep 6 and it starts, you're in the money chamber. And every time you're in pain, flip that on its head and think, I'm in the money chamber and you're collecting cash. Because the longer you can stay within those top sets, and in your working set and your top set, if it's 6 to 10, the minute you're in that rep 6, think about working progressively to rep 10 and stay in that money chamber and collect as much cash as you can, because that's tension, that's effective reps, that's stress, that's damage, that's doing muscle tissue. So every time you're in pain, think of the money. Dropping the nice reps, drive through, all the way through, always getting it short, high.
So next up, we've got the high to low cable fly. So now we've done our upper chest, we've done our midline chest, now we're focusing on decline. Now, we could do more compound movements, but my chest is shot to pieces. So realistically, performance levels aren't gonna be where they need to get to. So we're gonna top it up with some isolation work, which again, is very good at generating a lot of stimulus without accumulating too much fatigue. Now, where our chests are fried now, it's very hard to get your chest short, to get that contraction in. So the main focus of this for us now is getting that chest short, holding it for 2 seconds, and optimizing tension in the shortened range. So key focus now, key focus of any pec fly movement is think about drawing your biceps and your elbows together. What a lot of people do is they roll their shoulders over, they bring their hands together, and you're not getting your chest fully shortened. So focus on keeping your shoulders retracted back, keep your chest elevated, and drive through, straight arm on the concentric. Squeeze your biceps together. That's gonna get your chest as short as possible. Again, optimizing tension in the shortened range. On the eccentric, you don't wanna come back straight armed because it's gonna be putting too much tension on your delts. Slight bend in the arm on the eccentric, that keeps tension, and then drive forward, straight arm on the concentric. In terms of tempo, explosive power, 1 to 2 seconds. Get a 2-second squeeze, contract the muscle into a 3-second eccentric, slight pause, drive that concentric again. Fucking dying.
His eyes are always red when it comes out.
Fucking hell. It's chest fried. One more set. So 3 top sets on isolation movements. As I said, set 1 and 2 are at a very similar level. Set 3 probably would drop off. So we reduce the load, high rep range, we go in with a back off set. That's a good tool for getting more volume in the plan, but we also optimize metabolic stress in the 3rd set. After this, we're going to be moving back into some side delt work. So delts don't feel too fried. Had 3 chest movements. Delts feel slightly recovered. So we're going to go back in with some side delts. Don't need more front delts. As I said, getting some front delt work in the chest press, in the upper press, also the machine shoulder press that we've done. So we now focus on your side delts. I think an area that not a lot of people neglect is their side delts. Probably go too heavy with their shoulder press movements. So they've got big front delts, but you don't have that roundness. If you want that capped roundness, you need to develop your side delts, also your rear delts. But rear delts, as you will see in one of the later videos, we'll go in with our pull session. So next up, we've got dumbbell side lateral raises. Now again, a big mistake a lot of people do is they bring their hands in too far and they also bounce up with their knees. So you'll bounce up with your knees and that will initiate the first portion of the movement with momentum. What you need to focus on is keeping your hands just outside of shoulder width, and that first part of the movement is going to be tension on the side delt and not momentum. Keep your knees completely still. So shoulders retracted, keep your chest nice and elevated. Drive up with your elbows like that, slight bend in the arm. No momentum, just all tension on the side delt like that. Now you need to work with an appropriate load. I'm quite strong, so I can go with 17.5s, but it's all relevant to my ability. Don't ego lift. So just because you see me doing 17.5s, don't start doing them and swinging like that, because you're not going to be optimizing tension. So as I said, knees, no movement, they stay completely still. Hands just outside of shoulder width, and drive up with your elbows. All you need to focus on is bringing your arm just up in line with your shoulder. You don't need to go above, because tension goes on your side delt onto your traps. Just focus on bringing your arms parallel with your shoulder. So isolation movement, we've got 2 top sets. So my second working set, top set, is still going to be peak performance. Because I haven't accumulated too much fatigue, I can go into the next set at the same level. So it's at peak performance. Third set, I'm going to see a drop off. So what I'm going to do is reduce the load to 12 to 15s, work to a high rep range, finish with that back off set, get more volume in there. What's key with the back off is it's still the same intensity. Don't look at it like it's a back off set. You haven't got to work as hard. You're still driving it to failure. All it is a planned reduction in load and working to a high rep range. Still gets driven all the way to failure. Just to finish off, pretty fried by now. Shoulders, delts, they can't take any more. Now we're just gonna finish with a top out of triceps. So 4 sets on a cable rope extension. Arms for me is probably my strongest area. So the areas that I'm focusing on developing the most is my delts, my chest, my delts, and also my back. So it wouldn't make sense for me to go very heavy in terms of volume on arms, but if arms are one of your strong points, you want to do more volume than 4 sets. Potentially you'd even start a session with arms and then focusing on delts and chest, depending on what your weak areas are. But typically, whatever the weak area is, go with the most volume on that. Start with that first, because you're going to be fresher and you're going to be executing it for a better level. But for me, realistically now, the aim isn't to grow my arms, it's just to maintain. I want my delts, keep saying my delts and touching my chest. Head's blown from this session. My chest and my delts, I want to develop those so they're in proportion with my arms. So just a small top out on triceps now. But again, key focus is, if you watch Ben now, is you want to keep your elbow locked in a fixed position. So keep your elbows completely still, keep them completely locked. What a lot of people will do is when they're on the eccentric, they'll bring their arms up and then initiate that movement with momentum. But it's just flexion around the elbow joint. Bring the eccentric up in line with your chest, drive that concentric, flick your wrists out at the bottom. I'll show you a demonstration now. You don't need to go crazy heavy on arms, don't ego lift. Small muscle group, don't need any big compound movements for it. But elbows completely locked. Drive that concentric, flick your wrist out at the bottom, squeeze for 1 second, get your triceps short. Time under tension on the eccentric, full range of motion. Drive that concentric again. So that's a wrap on push variation 1. To summarize that, we've done 8 working sets on delts, 7 working sets on shoulders, 4 working sets on tricep. Now, just because that volume works for me, it might not work for you. I've got a very high recovery capacity, and that allows me to work at peak performance levels for the entirety of that session, but also to recover efficiently going into that next session to a very good standard. But that's a wrap for today. Next time, we're going to be going for our push variation 2, which is going to be slightly more chest dominant, a little bit less volume in terms of delts. But join us again next time for a big push variation 2.